You are listening to the QSR Web Podcast. Are you a supplier or a brand working to elevate the customer experience? The Interactive Customer Experience Association connects brands, suppliers, agencies, and more who are working to create transcendent customer experiences. Let's work together to create a better customer experience ecosystem for us all. Join the ICX Association today at icxa.org.
Hello to everyone out there at the receiving end of today's QSR Web podcast, and thanks so much for checking in. I'm QSR Web editor Shelley Whitehead. I promise you won't be disappointed today because we're picking up right where we left off in our conversation with And Pizza CEO Michael Lastoria, who you first heard from in the podcast published on Friday, March 8th. That whole interview gets started right after this very brief word.
The Interactive Customer Experience Association's mission is to connect B2C brands to technology that elevates the customer experience. Brands have access to resources, project help, news, and insights based around boosting their customer experience. Suppliers gain network opportunities to reach these brands and help them provide solutions to elevate their customer experience. Join today at icxa.org.
Okay, today we're starting off right where we left off in the first part of our interview with And Pizza CEO Michael Lastoria. Specifically, we focus now on how the DC-based brand communicates with its employees as part of its overall mission to improve the quality of restaurant workers' lives. In And Pizza's case, that actually begins with something very much like what you're listening to at this moment, a podcast. I was also curious, you have an in-house podcast for employees, don't you?
We do, yeah. That was that sort of started off with our newsletter, and shame on me for thinking that a newsletter was going to be effective. I mean, the average age, of an And Pizza employee tribe member is, ranges from, call it 22 to 23 years old. And, I don't know anyone 22, 23 years old that prefers, being emailed a newsletter as a method of communication that, number one, is going to be engaging. Number two, they're actually going to read. Given, we live in a generation of sound bites. And it's really hard to sort of wrestle attention back and get people to pay attention. And so we decided to take all that communication and turn it into a podcast. It started off every other week, and now we have it going weekly. I think what makes it the most interesting is that now people are starting to tune in, and it took some time, right? Because a lot of this stuff, once you go there, like when we went to text only, it took time for it to catch on and a real commitment for the company to get it right. And the same thing with podcasting is it took time for people to feel like this is something that's not just, hey, let's go try it. We don't know, but we're invested in it. We're committed to it. The content's consistently improving, and we're figuring out, better ways for us to get all of the important messages the company has and wants you to receive in the most thoughtful. And so we record it, we text it out to our tribe members, and then listen to it. We're constantly tracking, how many plays or listens that we're getting and seeing those numbers increase week over week over week. And then, of course, soliciting feedback. How can we do this better? What would be more interesting? If we bring in, people that are potentially celebrities, right, in their communities or neighborhoods, if we start to do interview content with them, is that more interesting? Is it not? And we've just found that we're getting a lot of good crowdsourcing of ideas that make the content more rich, more powerful, and more digestible.
I can relate. Through this,
as we're here today,
through this podcast, it's fun and it's interesting, but then again, you make your mistakes right there for everybody to see and hear. So
people like that.
I think
people like mistakes. They love it. I mean, when you make mistakes, you're basically saying, "I'm like you. You make mistakes. Brands make mistakes. People make mistakes." There's a real good feeling that and a trust that comes from that when you're willing to put yourself out there. I think it works extremely well.
Let me ask you about, you've got a relatively streamlined menu, and you pretty much own your beverage menu. Um, I'm wondering what the intention is behind those two texts.
Yeah, I think, as it relates to beverage, I think it was, trying to find what would pair well with our pizza, and realizing that we probably need to sort of make our own products, right? And to do that. And everything that we tend to do is take a concept that is kind of right down the middle, and then kind of adjust it to be left of center. Add that twist or that edge that we feel like completes the flavor profile that is going to taste different. And we get a lot of inspiration from fast food. I mean, McDonald's wouldn't be McDonald's without the Big Mac. And one of the things that made the Big Mac special, outside of the double patty and a bun wedged in between, was the sauce, right? If you remove the special sauce from the Big Mac, you're left with just a relatively average burger. And so that's how we think about, if we're going to do a pepperoni pizza, well, it's either going to be loaded up with pepperoni, or it's going to be, spicy tomato sauce with pepperoni, with arugula, goat cheese, and hot honey. And just those extra couple of ingredients really tie, and that's our American honey, really tie a pie together that's become a bestseller, because we just did those one or two things that gave people a flavor profile they maybe haven't had before, or is unique to And Pizza. And we really look at like the hits on fast food menus as being the barometer, not the supply chain, right? Not the ingredient quality necessarily, but the flavor and what made, that brand special. It's the spicy chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A. It's the Big Mac from, McDonald's, et cetera, et cetera. Those special moments people remember, and they define brand. And that's the bar that we want to be looking up towards. And that's sort of every product needs to be as good as that. And if it's not, it can't live on our menu.
That's interesting that you look toward fast food. That may be the first time I've heard that in a while. It'll be fun to watch how the menu evolves in that respect. I can't go too much further without asking you about your location at the U.S. House of Representatives in the Rayburn Building, and I understand some pretty wild things have been happening there this week in the midst of all the testimony.
Yeah, well, we've had it's been a wild year, kind of starting off, turning into the new year with, the shutdown and the massive impact that had to the, 800,000 workers that were without paychecks. So we decided to offer, free pizza, and we gave away well over 30,000 pies, over the span of that shutdown. That became quite a thing, including partnering with an amazing human being, Jose Andres, who also is local, who we've done stuff in the past with. So our year started off with that. And then just yesterday, after the, Michael Cohen hearing, there was an interview that was right outside of our new shop that's in the Rayburn Building, which is in the House of Representatives. And there was a kid that was caught on camera, eating our pizza out of our box, and it became an internet sensation. I think the video is approaching about 2 million views, and now hallway pizza has become a thing. And so many people have reached out to us, and now it's become a meme, and we've created probably 10, 15 memes associated with that. We rolled out a hallway pizza today that was the actual ingredients that the kid was eating. And there's, press that have been circling, the location all morning, because people are really getting a kick out of, number one, how we mobilize as a brand to take advantage of, just the fact that someone was eating pizza behind a camera that went viral. And number two, the power and impact of internet culture. And the cool thing for a brand like ours is that, like, internet culture is literally right down the middle of something that we understand, because the brand happens to be more youthful. As I mentioned, the average age of our tribe members are 22, 23 years old. And so we kind of live, we live digitally. We are digitally native. And so it's been really fun just to see that take off, and to see the fun that we can have. And of course, the fact that most of our shops have digital screens, with the press of a button, all the content that we created for social could also live on those screens. And so people are walking into the shops, and now they're seeing something, with their eyes, from a more experiential standpoint that you normally would see a brand communicate digitally. So there's a lot of fun, that we can have. And I think that's the future of how we intend to communicate, is thinking about all the different touch points, not just those that live. We don't want to have a specific strategy for Twitter versus Instagram versus in-shop digital boards, versus our mobile app or desktop and mobile web browser. It's all just, touch points for content. And we think the content should kind of stream across all platforms, because I think it's funny if people walk into a pizza shop, instead of a traditional menu board, they see an internet meme that either someone else created or we created that's very relevant to noon on a Monday based on what happened the day before, because that's a way to get people to smile, get people to laugh, get people to forget about all of the issues or the weight of the world that they may be carrying on their shoulders or chest, and to just enjoy a moment with us, to have a little fun, to be lighthearted, and to eat some amazing pizza.
It's an interesting way to kind of earn media. So,
that's very well said.
Tell me where the brand is headed, growth-wise, and how it will retain its personality.
It's definitely not a linear path. I mean, the brand has always been, weird, and I think becoming a little bit more fearlessly weird in terms of just doing our own thing and marching to the beat of our own drummer. But expansion is on the horizon. Expect to see us in more and more cities and markets, east of the Mississippi. We'll be announcing some really cool things. And honestly, the bigger that we've gotten, I still consider us in this industry to be very small, given the sort of titans that have come before us, and just the rapid growth that we're seeing, actually from a couple of Washington, D.C. based brands, and Sweetgreen and Cava, and a sister brand of ours in New York, Dig In. And there's just so many amazing, startups and amazing entrepreneurs that have been in this industry and are entering this industry. So just to be a part of this new food culture, food as a platform ecosystem is really exciting. But also to have more dollars to invest in doing things the right way. I mean, I didn't come from the food service industry. So like for me, it's gotten easier for the sheer fact that I'm able to attract real, restaurant talent now, people that have been in the industry for some time that maybe weren't willing to take a bet on an entrepreneur with, $1 and a dream trying to change, change his business or change food service for the better. Now there's some proof in the fact that, hey, we've been around, and I know 7 years is still very early, but there are some proof points that say the concept, the brand, we love what you're doing. We'd love to join forces with you. And so that has become really empowering, having more dollars to invest in how we can be a better employer, how we can be a better neighbor, how we can serve more responsible food consistently, how we can consistently improve the quality of our offerings. Like, it really comes down to not just what you can't do because you have limited resources and limited human capital, to what you can do. And so the future for us is really a lot of white space, with continuing to do more and more and more of the right thing our way, with really supportive people. First and foremost, our tribe members that dedicate their time, energy, and life force to this business, and then to, our guests in the communities that we serve.
Okay, so last question. This is something I'm curious about from you. What would you like to see more restaurant brands, particularly limited service brands, do these days as part of their business as usual?
I honestly think the obvious answer for me is, I think, starting to think about the federal minimum wage, the minimum wage that you pay, and starting to invest some dollars in trying to be on the right side of it, or trying to think differently about what it means to pay people a higher wage, and how to stomach what will be over time $15 minimum wage, and don't necessarily look at it as this is going to be a loss leader and something where we are going to make less dollars overnight, which factually speaking that's probably correct, but how can you look at it as a net positive, given those dollars are important to the people that are coming to work for you? it is getting more expensive to live in all aspects, in all different, cities and counties in the United States, and to throw some dollars at trying to figure out, can we make this a positive thing for our business? Can we rethink the margin profile of our business? Can we rethink the employer-employee relationship and really focus on culture and taking care of those people that come to work for you? It's a very controversial topic, but one that's really important to me because we started with that thesis back in 2012 and have one of the healthier economic models as a result of having a lower turnover and having a unique, interesting culture that really drives a lot of top-line revenue for us and has been a defining point in terms of what makes this business work. It comes down to it's the people and it's the culture, and we would be nowhere without it.
Well said. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed talking to you. I've learned a lot and plenty of fodder for future stories you've given me. Thank you, Michael.
Well, And Pizza loves you. And Pizza loves this industry. We're just happy to be a part of it, and just very thankful for opportunities like this to share our 2 cents and maybe provoke a little bit of thought. But thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
To our dear audience, we hope you enjoyed that 2-part serving of And Pizza and even took home some ideas. Just we figured this podcast really only works when you get content that helps you do business better. So please, if you have ideas for ways we can do that or a brand you just want us to talk to, please contact me via email at shellyw@networldmediagroup.com. or through QSR Web or Pizza Marketplace online. Until we talk again, have a great business week ahead. Bye now.